Happy Halloween from the Urban Scope podcast. I know it'll be kind of hard to take me serious with this gear on from the Child's Play series, the Chucky doll. One of my favorite Halloween movies of all time, or series of all time, I should say. But anyways, today I want to talk about the WNBA. Christie Sides and the Indiana Fever have agreed to part ways, whatever that means. It was just her second season with the team. Like I said, she was fired after 2 years, a 33-47 record, back to back number one picks. I don't know. I'm kind of iffy on this move from the Indiana Fever. Like I said, they just got the number one draft pick 2 years in a row, and they're building a team that just made the playoffs last year. That was 13-27 the first year when they drafted Aaliyah Boston, and then the second year they broke even and were 20-20, 20 wins and 20 losses and made the playoffs, and eventually lost to Connecticut Sun in the first round. But like I said, it's a very young team. They have very good pieces. Not only do they have Caitlin Clark, the star of the league right now, they also have Aaliyah Boston. They also have Mitchell, she was a dead eye shooter. She can drive to the lane. She can do a lot of different things. She can defend as well. And then they had, just a plethora of different players that fit their pieces. And I think, they would just get better and better. But for some reason, like I said, they're not patient with these coaches anymore, whether it be the WNBA, whether it be the NBA or the NFL. I'm not sure about baseball and other sports. I'm closely more guarded to the basketball and football sports and boxing and things like that. But they just haven't been patient with these coaches, and it's becoming a trend over the last, probably 10 or so years, where you don't have much time. You're kind of like feeling like if you don't win, if you don't progressively get better every year, it's going to be repercussions. Christy Sides did get 7 games better from her first year as the coach, and I felt like she needed to have more time. She just got the pieces together. She did make the playoffs this year, and they made it. It was a very interesting series that they made it, and I felt like I didn't see this move coming. So when I saw it, I was like, wow, they're letting her go after the second year. It's similar to the Chicago Sky coach, Teresa Witherspoon. She had a lot of young pieces. They just had 2 first-round picks, high picks, high lottery picks, in Cardoso and Angel Reese, and they were just trying to gel together. They had a lot of injuries. So, it feels like, these owners are not taking everything in totality. Everything is kind of short-sighted. The players are not being able to grow with the coaches and vice versa. And it'll be a trickle down effect of how do you create that stability if you don't have the coaches on the same page with the players and vice versa. If you're bringing in coaches every year or every other year, it's going to be very difficult to create that camaraderie. Eventually, a coach will get lucky and get a good team, but do you want to be able to develop anymore? Like, are these organizations still interested in developing, or is it kind of like the music game or the podcast game where you go out there and get hot and then we'll offer you a deal instead of just seeing your potential and developing you? We just want you to already be developed, and we just reap the benefits of your talent. I feel like, there's not a lot in development anymore, especially when you think about these young players, right? They come out of the league raw. These players don't, like, they have to learn the speed of the game. Same thing for coaches. They have to learn the speed of the game and being able to adjust and make those adjustments and learn the game. And it's going to take some time. But if you're not given that opportunity or given the opportunity to grow and to learn, how can anyone learn? But there's only a handful of great anything. So everything else has to be developed. So the more you do it, the better you'll get is the concept. But nowadays, it's like, all right, you just go out there and get great. And when you get great, we'll go get you. It shouldn't work that way all the time, especially with these owners. Like most of these owners didn't play sports, and I didn't play sports, except for a little league and stuff like that. But at the same time, I'm able to see that it takes time, and to build a dynasty or build anything with stability, it takes time. You're not just going to get, throw something out there and you're going to get greatness. It takes effort, takes headache, it takes pain, sweat, all of these different things. So, like I talked about there's parity with the NBA and NFL with this stuff. You had Dwayne Casey, who was with the Toronto Raptors, who he was fired after the first year. Winning Coach of the Year and winning 59 games, the most in the league's history. Well, not the league's history, but in their team and franchise's history. And he was let go. I said, how can you let go of the Coach of the Year, who just won the Coach of the Year the previous year and won 59 games? Toronto is not a legacy franchise that you're like the Cowboys or the Lakers or the Boston Celtics or the Yankees or something like that. If they win 50 plus games every year, never win a championship, their fan base is pretty much satisfied with that. It's not a franchise that's like, oh man, we got to get the championship. We're America's team. It's a franchise that, no disrespect, is not seen in high regards, and it's in a different country as well. It's in Canada, so whatever they, if they can get 50 plus wins or 40 plus wins and make the playoffs, I mean the fan base is pretty satisfied. But to let a guy go after 59 wins and after winning Coach of the Year, it's just it's kind of absurd. It's a little off-putting, I think. But the NFL does it as well. Cleveland Browns, they were horrible for many years, and this year they're kind of struggling. They were just firing coaches left and right. They had, probably 30 different quarterbacks in 10 years that they started. There was just a lot of impatience going on and not a lot of development, especially from a player's perspective. They weren't developing players, quarterbacks specifically. They had other great players around, but like I said, to win in that game, you need a quarterback. But this topic kind of had me thinking, just from the standpoint, from the media's perspective of, can Caitlin Clark be blamed for her coach getting fired like other great players are blamed? And hear me out on this. When you think about Magic Johnson, he was blamed for Coach Paul Westphal being fired, which, people probably had inside information on that. And, it was rumored that they didn't have the best relationship, and Magic, wielded a lot of power back then and even now. But, they always say if you have a great player, they can pretty much control the league and they can control your franchise. So when you have a Giannis who was kind of blamed for Adrian Griffin being fired because it was rumored that Adrian Griffin kind of called his brother out, and you had LeBron being blamed for David Blatt or Darvin Ham's firing. So can we blame Caitlin Clark for her coach being fired, or is it a double standard to where if the media likes you, you're not seen as a coach getting fired? Because nobody really blames Steph for Mark Jackson getting fired, or they didn't blame Klay Thompson or Draymond for Steph getting fired, but they're seen in a better light. So is Caitlin Clark it's going to be one of those topics where Caitlin Clark, now I'm not saying, I don't know if, like I said, there's no rumors out there or reports out there that's saying that Caitlin Clark wanted her coach fired or she had a better relationship with her. The article, basically, the ESPN article, basically said that the coach and the front office kind of separated ways, but it never said the reason why. But can Caitlin Clark be blamed like these other players are blamed for getting their coach fired? And from my perspective, everyone has to hold some accountability, even though she got them to the playoffs in her first year. So she, she can blame some of the blame because, what if they won 25 games this year and made it to the championship? Do you think the team would have want to part ways with her, with Christie Sides? I don't think they would have. I think they would have, picked a side, so to speak. But, it's just something to think about. Like I said, all of these coaches are getting fired as well. And, the NFL kind of came down on owners about firing all these coaches, and they got this guaranteed money and they're paying this money out everywhere. Sometimes they're paying three different coaches. They didn't fire two coaches and have another coach on the payroll that they actively have. So, when you're dealing with this situation, you have to think, are they developing their talent, and are they being patient enough? So, just something to think about. Um, that's all I have for this topic. Until next time, thanks for joining or tuning in to the Urban Scope podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the videos.